Yo, what's up guys? I hope you guys enjoyed the build. For me, this is the most fun I had in a while playing a DPS in an MMORPG. But nevertheless, in the last video, we talked about all the skills. You know now how the skills work, how you should use them. And in this video, we will talk about the gear. And as always, I will not just give you a set build. I will also explain why certain things are so important and why others are not so important. Let's go. Alright, before we fully jump into the questlog build, first I wanted to give you a better understanding. What are the most important stats on our class here? Okay, so one thing that I mentioned a little bit in the last video, but I really want to highlight it here again. Our build completely depends on the uptime of Selfless Diffusion. I mentioned in the last video, when Selfless Diffusion is up, then all the synergy kicks in. And then we can just spam those abilities, right? That means our damage really relies on the uptime of Selfless Diffusion. Now, if you always have an insane party with 2 deadly markers and they know what they are doing, then you probably don't need like a crazy gear whatsoever. You will have just always a 100% uptime on your Selfless Diffusion. Problem solved. But there will be always cases where not everything is aligning, and then you have a downtime on your Selfless Diffusion. And if you have a downtime on Selfless Diffusion, you will have a much lower DPS. That's why in all these dummy times, people play with Temporal Leap, so that they can reduce or reset the cooldown of Selfless Diffusion. Right? Because the build just relies on that. Now, what else can we do to increase here the uptime of Selfless Diffusion? Simple, we just get more buff duration and more cooldown speed. If we have more buff duration, then the buff will just last longer. And if we have more cooldown speed, then of course the cooldown afterwards will be shorter. So we increase the uptime here of our Selfless Diffusion. So the first two stats that are important for our build, buff duration and cooldown speed. The next thing that you might have already realized, if you have like a decent party, like with 1 or 2 deadly markers, and you have a high uptime of Selfless Diffusion, then this build becomes really spammy, right? And that this feels really good, you need a lot of attack speed. So you can see that here in the clip, just was able to spam Stellar Dash and Milky Way and nothing else, and just could hit that all the time on the boss. And that feels so great, especially if you have a lot of attack speed. The more attack speed you have, the faster you can do your animations here. And you will just be able to spam those abilities more and more. It's so good. You want to have a lot of attack speed so that you can actually utilize it. But since this build is so spammy, right? Since we are spamming non-stop all our things here, you will see, like also now right now, how my mana is going down, right? And of course we have mana exchange to fill up our mana again, which you of course can do, because also mana exchange get reduced by Selfless Diffusion. So you can actually spam that non-stop, right? It has no cooldown, but you will have to do that, which is one more button that you will have to spam. It's just what it is. So if you don't want to care so much about mana, then you will need a lot of mana cost efficiency and mana rank. Okay, so we have the basis. Now let's get into the questlog builds. Okay, so the first thing that we have to decide on is, of course, do we go with the Heroic Orb or do we go with the Heroic Crossbow? Now, I know a lot of people have the Heroic Crossbow because of PvP, because there you play with it. And now they always ask, okay, can I also play with my Heroic Crossbow this build, or do I really need this Heroic Orb? First of all, yes, of course, you can also play with the Heroic Crossbow the build, and it will be still broken because the build is just giga insanely broken, okay? But you will do way less damage than a person with the Heroic Orb. This has a couple of reasons. The first reason is you see how many damage abilities from the crossbow we have, right? 0. What is one of the big advantages if you go into the heroic weapon? You increase the base damage of this weapon. But in our case, the crossbow could also have just 10 base damage or 20 base damage. We don't care. Like, we literally don't care, because all our abilities will scale off the orb damage and not off this damage. So it's really like base damage for the second weapon. We completely don't care. That's of course one disadvantage. Then secondly, the stats on the orb are actually really nice. We get 18 wisdom, which is nice, and we get 22 mana cost efficiency. So if you don't build a lot of mana cost efficiency, you will have to spam your mana exchange non-stop. Of course, it's a disadvantage. And the third disadvantage is that this solution crossbow is just giga insane for us. Just look at these stats. We get 21 base stats, 16.5% attack speed, 7% cooldown speed, and 6% buff duration. This is like the perfect secondary weapon for us. It just gives us a million of base stats that we can utilize on our orb. That's why, yes, for sure, you can stay on your heroic crossbow, but of course your damage will not even be close to the other ones. Now, let's say you don't want a full commit, which is totally understandable, and then I would always go for this orb here. This is just a tier 2 orb, but the base damage is almost the same to the tier 3 ones, and it comes with a really insane passive. Attacking with an orb effect reduces the remaining Stellar Dash cooldown by 3%, activates up to 5 times per second. So Stellar Dash is our main damage, right? These here are all orb effects. So what will happen, we will reduce our cooldown even more, which is insane. And because this one is so good, we will also extract this passive here and put that, of course, into our heroic orb, if we go with the heroic orb. So since I have that, I can just use my Stellar Dash in my Milky Way. There is no need for me to spam even the Void Smash anymore. It's so strong, it's crazy. Okay, so we talked about the weapons. Maybe one additional remark here. Some people suggested to go for the Malaka crossbow. Yes, Malaka crossbow is also decent. The problem is you would lose 16.5% attack speed. This is never worth it. Never. Like 16.5% attack speed, you will feel that, trust me. It really doesn't matter that our passive is just completely useless. It's not a big deal. We just take the crossbow for the stats, and that's it. Okay, now we come to the gear. And my first idea was just to go here with the Blood Hunter set. So we go for a 4-piece set, so we increase our crit damage to up to 30%, which is great. But of course here the problem that all these pieces come from world bosses, and one of them comes even from Nebula. So the grind to get all of these items will take a while. Now, yesterday someone came up with a really nice idea. We stay with the Spectral 2-piece, so we stay with tier 2 items, which will give us the critical damage bonus, and additionally we go for 2 pieces of the Brute set, which will give us additional attack speed and cooldown speed. Now, if you compare those two builds, you will see that there will be almost no damage difference, but this build is so much cheaper to get. So the Spectral set, the tier 2 set, you can just craft here on this All Things Workshop. So this is in Herba Village here. You have this All Things Workshop merchant. You just go there and then you can craft the headpiece here, for example, for some adventure coins. And the Brute 2-piece, you can just buy the lithographs, and on my server they have reasonable prices. And of course they will even drop more in the next week, so they will be really accessible for everyone. So this whole set will almost cost you nothing and will do almost the same damage than the whole Blood Hunter set. It's crazy. Of course sometimes the Spectral 2-piece is a little bit annoying because you always have to stay 5 meters away from the boss, and you wouldn't have this limitation with the Blood Hunter set. But I think for most people it's just not reasonable to get this Blood Hunter set anytime soon. And then it's of course always the question, what heroic armor do you get? And here first of all, it really does not matter too much. If you have the helmet, you can make the build viable with the helmet. If you have the gloves, you can make it viable with the gloves, and so on. The differences here are really minimal. But I made you 2 builds, one for the cloak and also one for the gloves. Now, my personal favorite is for sure the cloak. At least the same damage, if not even more than the gloves. And on top of that, you get the 200 skill damage resistance on top. And if you not only want to do wall bosses, but you want to do high dimensional trials, then having the skill damage resistance is just really beneficial. You will just get less damage from all mechanics, which means you can go for less max HP, which means, for example, that you can just fully sand it on all your runes. You can full go boss magic heavy attack chance. There's just no need to go for the rune synergies, because for a lot of those they don't give you any damage. That's why I personally really like going for the cloak. But as mentioned before, you can make everything viable. The differences are so minimal. Okay, now let's come to the accessories. Here I have again 2 variants, one with the heroic necklace and one with the heroic ring. Now there are 2 reasons why I chose those 2. First of all, because the items are actually really good. But secondly, a lot of the accessories in tier 3 are actually dropping from Nebula Island. At least the ones that are actually really good. That's why for the ring and the necklace, I don't know what tier 3 items to take. That's why here in the ring variant, I stay with the tier 2 necklace. And in the necklace variant, we stay with the tier 2 ring. Simply because it's just for us not reasonable to get those Nebula items anytime soon. And the old tier 2 items are actually really good. It's just a small upgrade. Personally, I prefer a little bit more the necklace, just simply because we get more attack speed of it. And I just love having a lot of attack speed. Every class feels so much more fun to play if you have a lot of attack speed. Totally personal preference. You will also deal a lot of damage with the ring variant. But yeah, I just love having a lot of attack speed. Okay, one more thing that we haven't touched on are the trait resonance effect. So I went here now everywhere with max health. We have to see, it could be also good to go here mana regen. I'm not 100% sure how it will feel in the late game, but yeah, both is fine. Either you go for more max HP or you go for more mana regen. Then for base stats, you can see we go fully onto dexterity, wisdom and perception. These are just always the 3 best stats in PvE. Dexterity gives you attack speed and crits, wisdom gives you cooldown speed and mana regen, and perception gives us more buff duration. Now, when we look here now onto the side, we can see all our stats. We have 104% buff duration, 122% attack speed, brings us down to 0.16 seconds attack speed, 24k max HP, 1.8k heavy attack chance, 1.6k crit, 83% mana cost efficiency, and 80% cooldown speed. We are so crazy maxed out, it's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, I think that's all you need to know. I hope this video helped you to better understand what you should go for, what is important for your build. And yeah, other than that, I wish you just a lot of fun playing the build. I only want to see rank 1s on world bosses. If you like the content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see ya in the next one.